A desperate night Ruby Patterson pressed her back against the cold bathroom tiles, trying to muffle her sobs so her daughter wouldn't hear. The apartment was dark except for the glow of her phone screen showing a bank balance of negative $37. Overdraft fees had eaten what little remained after rent. In the next room, 4-year-old Amelia coughed again, that wet, rattling cough that had kept them both awake for 3 nights straight. The pediatrician said she needed antibiotics, stronger ones this time. The prescription sat unfilled at the pharmacy downtown. Waiting for someone who could afford the $80 copay, Ruby wiped her face and scrolled through her contacts. Her sister was already helping with groceries. Her best friend from college had lent her money twice this year. There was nobody left to ask. Nobody except her cousin Daniel, who always made her feel small when she needed help. She typed quickly before she could change her mind. Daniel, I know I already owe you, but Amelia needs medicine. Could you spot me $80 until Friday? I promise I'll pay you back this time. Her thumb hovered over the send button. Pride fought with desperation. Desperation won. She pressed send and immediately felt the familiar shame wash over her. 3 minutes passed. Then her phone buzzed. I think you have the wrong number. Ruby's stomach dropped. She looked at the contact name. The number was 1 digit off. She'd texted a complete stranger. I'm so sorry. Please delete that. Wrong person. She tossed the phone onto the bathroom counter and pressed her palms against her eyes. Even her mistakes were failures now. The phone buzzed again. Is your daughter going to be okay? Ruby stared at the message. What kind of stranger responded like that? We'll figure it out. Sorry to bother you. She waited for the conversation to end there. Instead, another message appeared. How much do you need? An impossible offer. Ruby's hands trembled as she typed. I wasn't asking you for money. That message wasn't meant for you. I understand. But your daughter needs medicine. How much? She bit her lip. This felt wrong. Dangerous, even. People didn't just help strangers. There was always a catch. Always something they wanted in return. $80 for the prescription. But I can't take money from someone I don't know. What if you knew my name? I'm Benjamin. Despite everything, Ruby found herself typing back. I'm Ruby. But that doesn't change anything. It changes that we're not strangers anymore. What pharmacy? Please don't do this. I don't know who you are. I'm someone who remembers what it feels like to watch someone you love suffer because you can't afford to help them. Give me 5 minutes. Before Ruby could respond, her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered hesitantly. Hello, Ruby? The voice was calm, professional, somehow reassuring. Don't hang up. I just called the pharmacy on 5th Street, the only 24-hour one in your area code. They said someone named Patterson has a prescription waiting. It's paid for. They're keeping it at the counter. Ruby couldn't speak. Her throat had closed up completely. Are you still there? Benjamin asked. Why would you do this? She whispered. Because I can. Because your daughter shouldn't suffer while we debate about pride and strangers. Go get her medicine, Ruby. Make sure she's okay. I don't understand. You don't have to. Just go help your daughter. The line went quiet, but he didn't hang up. How did you know which pharmacy? Ruby asked. I looked up the area code, found the closest 24-hour pharmacy, and made an educated guess. Was I right? Yes. She was crying now, trying to keep her voice steady. Thank you. I don't know how to repay you. You don't repay kindness. You pass it forward when you can. The medicine run 30 minutes later. Ruby stood in the pharmacy parking lot with the prescription bag clutched to her chest. Amelia was home with their elderly neighbor who had offered to watch her. The medication inside the bag represented more than just antibiotics. It represented the first time in 2 years that someone had helped her without making her feel worthless. Her phone buzzed. Did you get it? Yes. Amelia's taking her first dose now. She's already sleeping better. Good. That's all that matters. Ruby sat in her old car, staring at the phone. She should end this conversation now, thank him one final time, and move on. Instead, she typed something she hadn't planned to say. Can I ask why you really did this? People don't just help like this. The response took longer this time. 10 years ago, my younger brother got sick. Really sick. We didn't have insurance, and I was working 3 jobs trying to keep us afloat. By the time I saved enough for the right treatment, it was too late. He died because I couldn't move fast enough, couldn't earn fast enough. I've spent every day since then making sure I never feel that helpless again. Ruby read the message 3 times. The pain in those words felt familiar, like recognizing your own reflection in someone else's story. Oh, I'm so sorry. I can't imagine. Neither could I, until it happened. That's why when I saw your message, when I saw a mother trying to save her daughter, I didn't hesitate. I couldn't. Your brother was lucky to have you fighting for him. Not lucky enough. They texted back and forth for another hour. Benjamin asked about Amelia, her favorite things. What made her laugh? Ruby found herself relaxing, sharing stories about her daughter's obsession with dinosaurs and her habit of naming every bug she found. She sounds amazing, Benjamin wrote. She is. She's everything. What about you? What's your story? Ruby hesitated. She'd spent so long being defined by her struggles that she'd almost forgotten there was more to her than just surviving. I used to be a research assistant at Northwestern. I loved it. I was studying environmental toxicology, trying to understand how industrial waste affects urban water systems. Then I got pregnant. The father left. I tried to keep working, but childcare cost more than I made. I had to choose between my career and my daughter. That's not really a choice. You chose her. That takes more courage than most people have. It doesn't feel courageous. It feels like I'm drowning slowly and pretending I'm swimming. What if you didn't have to pretend anymore? An unexpected proposition. The next morning, Ruby woke to a message sent at 6 in the morning. I have a proposal. No strings, no expectations. Just hear me out. She sat up carefully, trying not to wake Amelia, who was curled against her side, breathing easier than she had in days. I'm listening. I run a technology company here in Chicago. We have a sustainability division that researches environmental impact and solutions. We need someone with your background, someone who understands toxicology and cares about the real-world applications. I'd like to offer you an interview. Ruby read the message 5 times. You don't even know me. I know enough. I know you're smart enough to work at Northwestern. I know you're dedicated enough to sacrifice your career for your daughter. I know you're honest enough to tell a stranger the truth, even when it's hard. That's more than most candidates offer. This feels wrong. Like charity dressed up as opportunity. It's not charity. It's recognition. You have skills we need. We have resources you need. That's called employment, not charity. What company? Hunt Technologies. Then decide if you want the interview. Ruby's hands shook as she typed the name into her phone's browser. The results filled her screen. Hunt Technologies, valued at over $15 billion. Founded by Benjamin Hunt, former foster kid who built a tech empire from nothing. His photo showed a man in his late 30s, serious eyes, slight smile, the kind of face that suggested he'd seen both the best and worst of humanity. She'd accidentally texted a billionaire. Ruby put down her phone and laughed until she cried. Then she picked it back up and typed 4 words. When's the interview? Tomorrow. 10 in the morning. I'll send a car. I can take the bus, Ruby. Yes. Let someone help you. Just this once. See what it feels like? She looked at Amelia. Sleeping peacefully for the first time in days, medicine on the nightstand. A chance at something better hovering just beyond reach. Okay, send the car. Already done. Get some rest. Tomorrow's a big day. Ruby set her phone down and pulled Amelia closer. Outside, the Chicago morning was breaking through the darkness, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. For the first time in longer than she could remember, she felt something that had been absent from her life for so long. Hope. The interview, the black car, arrived at exactly 9:30. Ruby had been awake since 5, trying on every combination of clothes she owned. Nothing felt right for interviewing at a billion-dollar company. She finally settled on a simple navy dress. She'd worn to her college graduation, and her only pair of heels that didn't have scuff marks. Amelia watched from the couch, wrapped in her favorite blanket covered in cartoon dinosaurs. You look pretty. Mommy, Thank you, sweetheart. Ruby kissed her daughter's forehead. Mrs. Chen will be here in 5 minutes to watch you. Be good for her, okay? Are you going to get a job? Maybe I'm going to try. Will we have more food? The question broke Ruby's heart. She knelt down and hugged Amelia tight. Yes, baby. We're going to have everything we need. I promise. The drive downtown took 30 minutes. Ruby watched the city transform through the window. From her neighborhood of tired buildings and corner stores to the gleaming towers of the financial district, the car pulled up in front of a glass building that seemed to touch the clouds. Hunt Technologies occupied the top 15 floors. A woman in her 50s with kind eyes met Ruby in the lobby. I'm Helen Rodriguez, Director of Human Resources. Mr. Hunt is expecting you. The elevator ride felt both endless and too short. Ruby's stomach twisted with nerves. She'd researched the company until midnight, memorizing projects and initiatives, trying to understand what they actually did beyond the corporate language on their website. The elevator doors opened to reveal a space that didn't look like any office Ruby had ever seen. Natural light flooded through floor-to-ceiling windows. Plants grew everywhere, real ones, creating small gardens between workstations. People moved with purpose, but without the frantic energy she'd expected. This way, Helen said, leading her down a hallway lined with photos of environmental projects, clean water initiatives in developing countries, solar installations in rural communities, urban gardens and food deserts. They stopped at a conference room with a view of Lake Michigan stretching blue and endless. Benjamin. Hunt stood at the window. He turned as they entered, and Ruby's breath caught. The photo hadn't captured the intensity of his presence, the way he seemed to actually see you when he looked at you, Ruby. He crossed the room and extended his hand. Thank you for coming. His grip was firm but not aggressive. His smile reached his eyes. Thank you for the opportunity. Her voice sounded steadier than she felt. Please, sit. He gestured to the table. Can I get you anything? Coffee? Water? Water would be great. He poured 2 glasses from a pitcher on the table and sat across from her. Not at the head of the table, but directly across, like they were equals. I'm going to be honest with you, Benjamin said. This isn't a standard interview. I've already read your academic record. I know what you're capable of. What I need to understand is what you want to do with that capability. Ruby chose her words carefully. I want to work on problems that matter. When I was at Northwestern, I was studying how industrial runoff affects neighborhoods like mine. Poor communities get sick from polluted water while companies profit from cheap disposal. I wanted to change that. I still do. Why did you leave? Because I had to choose between research and raising my daughter alone. The stipend barely covered my own expenses. Childcare would have cost more than I made. That's a failure of the system, not you. Maybe, but it still ended my career. Benjamin leaned forward. What if it didn't? What if you could continue that work here, with proper support, proper resources, and proper compensation? What would you do? Ruby felt her heart race. I'd focus on urban water systems. Specifically, I'd want to develop affordable testing methods that communities could use themselves. Early detection of contamination, something simple enough for neighborhood organizations to implement without needing expensive labs or specialists. Why that specifically? Because by the time official agencies acknowledge a problem, people have already been drinking poisoned water for months or years. Communities need to be able to protect themselves. Benjamin smiled, a real smile that transformed his entire face. That's exactly the kind of thinking we need. You're hired. Ruby blinked. Don't you need to check references? Interview other candidates? Your references are excellent. I already checked. And I don't need other candidates. I need you. $75,000 salary to start, full benefits, flexible hours, and on-site childcare. I'm sorry, did you say on-site childcare? We built it 2 years ago. Employees with children shouldn't have to choose between career and family. We have trained staff, age-appropriate activities, even a small medical clinic. Amelia will be safe, engaged, and close by whenever you need her. Ruby couldn't speak. The number he'd mentioned was more than double what she'd made before. With childcare included, it was life-changing. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered. "Because talent shouldn't be wasted due to circumstances. Because you deserve a chance to do the work you were meant to do. And because I meant what I said. No strings, just opportunity." Uncovering the truth 3 weeks later, Ruby had settled into a rhythm that still felt surreal. She'd wake up without the crushing weight of anxiety. She'd drop Amelia at the bright, cheerful childcare center where her daughter had already made friends. Then she'd head upstairs to her own office with real equipment, real funding, and real possibilities. She was developing the water testing system she'd described. Working with a small team of engineers and chemists, the work consumed her in the best way. Reminding her of who she'd been before survival became her only goal. But something else was happening too. The more time Ruby spent at Hunt Technologies, the more she noticed irregularities. Small things at first. Purchase orders that didn't match inventory records. Vendor payments that seemed inflated. Research budgets that disappeared into administrative costs. She tried to ignore it. This wasn't her business. She was there to do environmental research, not audit the company's finances, but her training wouldn't let her unsee patterns once she'd spotted them. One evening, working late while Amelia played in the child care center downstairs, Ruby pulled up the last quarter's expense reports. She wasn't supposed to have access, but the system had granted her higher clearance than expected, probably an oversight. What she found made her stomach turn. Someone is systematically diverting funds from research projects. Not huge amounts, nothing that would trigger immediate red flags. But over time, it added up to millions. Money meant for clean water projects, for solar installations. For communities that desperately needed help, was vanishing into shell companies. Ruby traced the approval signatures. They all led back to one person, Gerald Foster, Chief Financial Officer. Benjamin's right-hand man for the past 5 years, she sat frozen at her desk. This was the kind of discovery that could destroy her new life before it really began. If she said nothing, she'd be complicit. If she said something, who would believe her? She'd been there less than a month. Gerald Foster was a respected executive with decades of experience. Her phone buzzed. A text from Benjamin. "Still here?" "It's past 8. She stared at the message, then at the screen full of evidence, then back at the message. She made a decision. "Can we talk?" "It's important." "My office." 10 minutes. Dangerous Alliance. Benjamin listened without interrupting as Ruby walked him through everything she'd found. She'd printed the evidence, highlighted the patterns, traced the money trail as far as she could access. When she finished, he sat back in his chair and closed his eyes. "How long have you known?" she asked. His eyes opened, sharp and focused. "I suspected for 6 months. But I had no proof, and everyone I asked to investigate came back with nothing. Gerald's been covering his tracks well. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I hired you to do environmental research, not to be my forensic accountant. I never meant for you to get caught up in this. But I am caught up in it. And now that I know, I can't unknow it." Benjamin stood and walked to the window. The city sparkled below them, millions of lights hiding millions of secrets. If we confront Gerald without absolute proof, he'll destroy the evidence and probably take down anyone who threatens him. That includes you. So what do? He turned back to face her. "We build an airtight case, quietly, carefully, and when we have everything we need, we end this." "Oh, sounds dangerous." "It is. Which is why I'm giving you an out right now. Walk away. Keep doing your research. Pretend you never saw any of this. I'll handle Gerald alone." Ruby thought about Amelia downstairs. About the stability they'd finally found. About the risk of losing everything again. Then she thought about the communities that money was supposed to help. The children who would drink contaminated water because funds meant for filtration systems had been stolen. The families living in darkness because solar projects never materialized. "I'm in. Tell me what you need me to do." Benjamin smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I need you to keep doing exactly what you've been doing. Access what you can, document everything, but don't change your behavior. Gerald can't know we're onto him. What about you?" "I'm going to bring in someone who specializes in corporate fraud, someone Gerald doesn't know about. Between the three of us, we'll dismantle what he's built and make sure he can't hurt anyone else. Over the next 2 weeks, Ruby lived a double life. By day, she was the passionate researcher, focused on her water testing project. By night, after Amelia went to sleep, she carefully compiled evidence from the access she'd been granted. The specialist Benjamin brought in was a woman named Diana Walsh, former FBI white-collar crime investigator. She was methodical, brilliant, and intimidating in a way that made Ruby feel both protected and slightly terrified. "You've got good instincts," Diana told Ruby during one late-night meeting. "Most people see numbers that don't add up and convince themselves it's nothing. You trusted what you saw." "I almost didn't," Ruby admitted. "I almost decided it wasn't my problem. But you didn't. That matters." They built their case piece by piece. Gerald had been sophisticated, routing money through legitimate-looking vendors, keeping individual transactions small, spreading them across different departments. But he'd made mistakes too. Patterns emerged. Connections formed. The picture became clear. He'd stolen over $8 million in 3 years. The meeting was scheduled for a Friday afternoon. Gerald thought it was a routine quarterly review. He walked into the conference room with his usual confidence, expensive suit perfectly pressed, smile practiced and empty. Then he saw Diana Walsh sitting beside Benjamin. His smile faltered. "Gerald, sit down," Benjamin said. His voice was calm, but Ruby heard the steel underneath. She sat in the corner, laptop open, ready to provide any documentation Diana needed. "What's this about?" Gerald asked, remaining standing. "It's about Clearwater Consulting, Horizon Environmental Services, and Pacific Resource Group," Diana said. "Companies that don't actually exist, except on paper. Companies you created to funnel money away from legitimate projects." Gerald's face went carefully blank. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes." "You do?" Benjamin slid a folder across the table. "That's 3 years of transactions. Every fake invoice, every forged approval, every dollar you stole from projects meant to help people who needed it." Gerald picked up the folder and flipped through it. Ruby watched his expression shift from denial to calculation. He was looking for an escape route. "This is circumstantial. Any auditor would see legitimate business expenses." "Any auditor who didn't look closely," Diana said. "But we looked very closely. We have your digital footprint, Gerald. Every login, every file accessed, every email sent. We have testimony from the shell company operators you hired. They're cooperating in exchange for reduced charges." "You're bluffing." "I never bluff," Diana said. "You have 2 choices. Resign immediately, return every dollar you stole, and accept a permanent ban from corporate leadership. Or we hand this to the prosecutors, and you spend the next decade in federal prison." Gerald's composure finally cracked. "You have no idea what you're doing. The board approved those vendors. The system approved those payments. You think I did this alone?" Benjamin leaned forward. "Are you saying someone else was involved?" "I'm saying you should be careful about what stones you turn over. Not everyone in this company is as noble as you think. Give me names." Gerald laughed, a bitter sound. "Figure it out yourself. I'm done protecting people who won't protect me." He stood abruptly. "I'll have my resignation letter on your desk Monday morning. But you're making a mistake. This company has enemies you don't even know about. And now they know you're vulnerable." He walked out without another word. The room fell silent. "That went well," Diana said dryly. He implied, "There are others," Ruby said. "People on the board?" "Possibly," Benjamin said. "But that's a problem for another day. Right now, we've stopped the bleeding. We've recovered most of the money, and we've protected the company's mission." He looked at Ruby. "Without you, Gerald would have continued stealing indefinitely." "I just saw what was there." "No, you saw it and cared enough to do something." "That's different." The aftermath a weekend after Gerald's confrontation felt strange. Ruby kept expecting consequences, waiting for the other shoe to drop. But Monday arrived with only an email announcement that Gerald Foster had resigned for personal reasons, effective immediately. The office buzzed with speculation. Ruby kept her head down and her mouth shut. Only 3 people knew the real story, and she intended to keep it that way. But Wednesday morning brought complications. Ruby was in her lab, calibrating testing equipment, when Helen Rodriguez appeared at her door. "Ruby, Mr. Hunt needs to see you immediately." The urgency in Helen's voice sent Ruby's heart racing. She followed her to Benjamin's office, where Diana Walsh was already waiting, looking grim. "What happened?" Ruby asked. Benjamin handed her a document. "This arrived an hour ago. It's a lawsuit filed by Gerald Foster alleging wrongful termination, defamation, and conspiracy to damage his reputation." Ruby scanned the pages. Her name appeared multiple times. Gerald was claiming she'd fabricated evidence as part of a scheme to gain favor with Benjamin. "He's lying." "Of course he's lying," Diana said. "But he's smart. He's attacking before we can. If he makes enough noise, creates enough doubt, he might convince people we're the ones who acted improperly." "Can he win?" "In court? No, we have ironclad evidence. But in public opinion, he could do real damage. To the company, to Benjamin, and to you." Ruby sat down hard. This was what she'd feared. Getting caught up in something bigger than herself, something that could destroy the fragile stability she'd built. "What do we do?" she asked. Benjamin leaned against his desk. "We have 2 options. Settle quietly, give Gerald some money to go away, and move on. Or we fight publicly, expose everything he did, and deal with the media circus that follows. What do you want to do?" "I want to fight. But it's not just my decision anymore. This affects you too, Ruby. If we go public, your name will be everywhere. Reporters will dig into your life, your past, your story. It won't be pleasant." Ruby thought about Amelia, about the quiet life they'd finally started building. Going public would shatter that peace. But staying quiet would let Gerald win, would let him keep his reputation while the truth remained buried. She looked at Diana. "If we fight, can we win?" "Absolutely. But winning comes at a cost." "What cost?" "Privacy. Peace. The comfortable anonymity you've had until now. People will know your story. They'll have opinions about it. Some will support you, others won't. Are you prepared for that?" Ruby closed her eyes and thought about all the moments that had led here. The desperate night she'd texted a wrong number. The medicine she couldn't afford. The choice between career and child. The chance Benjamin had given her. Not out of pity, but recognition. She thought about the $8 million Gerald had stolen from projects meant to help communities like hers. About the families still waiting for clean water while he'd bought vacation homes. She opened her eyes. "Yes, I'm prepared. Let's fight." Going public, the press conference was scheduled for Friday. Diana spent 2 days preparing Ruby, running through potential questions, teaching her how to stay calm under pressure. "They'll try to make this about Benjamin rescuing you," Diana warned. "They'll turn it into a fairy tale instead of focusing on the fraud. Don't let them. How do I stop them? By being honest about what actually happened. You're not a damsel in distress. You're a qualified researcher who uncovered corporate fraud. That's the story. Don't let anyone twist it into something else." Thursday night, Ruby couldn't sleep. She lay awake worrying about everything that could go wrong. What if people didn't believe her? What if they accused her of being complicit? What if this destroyed her career instead of establishing it? Her phone buzzed. A text from Benjamin. "You awake?" "Unfortunately. Want to talk?" "I don't know what to say. Then just listen. What you did took courage. Not just finding the fraud, but choosing to speak up about it. Most people, when faced with that choice, protect themselves first. You protected the mission. That's rare. I'm terrified. Because that means you understand what's at stake. But remember, you're not alone in this. Tomorrow, we stand together." The press conference was held in Hunt Technologies' main auditorium. Ruby stood backstage, watching reporters fill the seats. Cameras lined the back wall. She recognized the logos from major networks, national newspapers, financial media. Her hand shook. Diana appeared beside her. "Breathe. Remember your training. Answer the questions you want to answer, not the ones they ask." "That doesn't make sense." It will when you're out there. Benjamin joined them, adjusting his tie. Ready? No, Ruby said honestly. Perfect. Let's go. They walked out together. Flashbulbs exploded. The room filled with the sound of clicking cameras and murmured conversations. Benjamin stepped to the podium. Thank you for coming. 3 weeks ago, we discovered systematic financial fraud within Hunt Technologies. Over $8 million was stolen from environmental projects meant to help vulnerable communities. Today, we're here to explain what happened, how we discovered it, and what we're doing to make it right. He outlined the fraud clearly and precisely. Then he introduced Diana, who walked through the investigation, the evidence, and the legal actions being taken. Finally, Benjamin gestured to Ruby. And this is Ruby Patterson, the researcher who first noticed the irregularities and had the courage to report them. Ruby stepped to the podium. The lights were blinding. She found Amelia in the front row, sitting with Helen, coloring in a book, oblivious to the significance of the moment that steadied her. I want to be clear about something, Ruby began, her voice stronger than she expected. I'm not a hero. I'm a researcher who saw numbers that didn't make sense and asked questions. That's what researchers do. What makes this story unusual isn't that I reported fraud. It's that I was in a position where reporting it wouldn't destroy me. She looked directly at the cameras. Most people who discover wrongdoing at work stay quiet because they can't afford to speak up. They have families to feed, rent to pay, health insurance to protect. They know that whistleblowers often lose everything. I was able to report what I found because I work for someone who values truth more than convenience. And because I had support from people who believed me. That shouldn't be rare. That should be normal. The questions came rapid fire after that. Ms. Patterson, is it true you were homeless when Mr. Hunt hired you? I was never homeless. I was struggling financially, like millions of working parents in this country. There's a difference. Did Mr. Hunt hire you because of your personal situation? He hired me because I'm qualified. I have a degree in toxicology, research experience, and expertise he needed. My personal circumstances didn't disqualify me from doing excellent work. Some people are saying this is a publicity stunt. $8 million in stolen money isn't a publicity stunt. It's a crime. And the communities who were supposed to benefit from that money deserve to have it returned and used for its intended purpose. What do you say to Gerald Foster's accusations that you fabricated evidence? Ruby had been waiting for this question. She looked straight at the reporter. Say that numbers don't lie. Bank records don't lie. Digital footprints don't lie. Everything we've presented is documented, verified, and available to any legitimate investigator. If Gerald Foster wants to prove me wrong, he's welcome to provide evidence. But accusations without proof are just noise. The conference lasted 90 minutes. By the end, Ruby felt drained, but surprisingly calm. She'd said what needed to be said. The truth was out. New beginning, the media storm lasted 2 weeks. Ruby's face appeared on news sites, business channels, even morning talk shows. Most coverage was positive, praising her integrity and courage. Some questioned the relationship between her and Benjamin. Trying to create scandal where none existed, Ruby ignored it all. She focused on her work on Amelia. On building the life they deserved, the water testing system she'd designed was now in beta testing in 3 Chicago neighborhoods. Early results were promising. Communities could test their water quickly and affordably. Catching contamination before it caused harm. It was exactly what she'd hoped to create. 1 month after the press conference, Benjamin asked Ruby to meet him on the rooftop garden, a space most employees didn't know existed. She found him standing by the railing. Looking out at the city. You wanted to see me? He turned and smiled. I wanted to thank you, properly, without cameras or reporters or lawyers present. You already thanked me? Not enough. What you did, standing up there, telling your truth, it changed things. We've had 3 other employees come forward with concerns they were afraid to report before. People feel safer speaking up now. That's because of you. I just answered questions. You did more than that. You showed people that integrity matters, that truth matters, even when it's inconvenient. Ruby looked out at the city, at the neighborhoods spreading in every direction. Somewhere down there, families were drinking cleaner water because the stolen money had been recovered and the projects funded. Somewhere a mother was working late, trying to provide for her children, hoping tomorrow would be better than today. "Can I ask you something?" Ruby said. "Anything." "That first night when I accidentally texted you, you could have ignored it. Most people would have. Why didn't you?" Benjamin was quiet for a long moment. "My brother's name was Thomas. He was 12 when he got sick, 16 when he died. For 4 years I watched him suffer while I tried to earn enough money to save him. I made myself a promise at his funeral. If I ever had the chance to help someone the way I wished someone had helped us, I wouldn't hesitate. When your message came through, asking for help for your daughter, it was like the universe giving me a chance to keep that promise. I'm sorry about Thomas. Me too. Every day. But knowing that Amelia is healthy, that you're doing work that matters, that something good came from answering that text, it helps. It doesn't erase the pain, but it gives it meaning." Ruby felt tears building but didn't try to stop them. "You changed our lives. You changed your own life. I just opened a door. You're the one who walked through it and turned it into something meaningful." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the sun set over Chicago, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. "What happens now?" Ruby asked. "Now, you keep building your water testing system. I keep trying to run a company that actually helps people. We both keep showing up, doing the work, making things better one day at a time. That sounds almost normal. Except for the part where a single mom accidentally texted a billionaire and ended up exposing corporate fraud, designing environmental solutions, and becoming a minor celebrity." Ruby laughed. "When you put it that way, it does sound pretty strange. The best stories usually are." 6 months later, Ruby's water testing system was implemented in 40 communities across 3 states. Amelia started kindergarten at a school where Ruby didn't have to worry about affording supplies. The lawsuit Gerald Foster filed was dismissed with prejudice. Ruby was promoted to Director of Community Environmental Solutions, leading a team of researchers focused on accessible technology for underserved populations, and sometimes, late at night, she'd look at that original text message thread, still saved on her phone, the desperate plea sent to a wrong number. The kindness of a stranger who wasn't really a stranger at all. Just someone who understood that we're all one accident, one illness, one bad day away from needing help ourselves. She'd think about how one moment of courage, hers and Benjamin's both, had changed the trajectory of her entire life. And she'd remember what Benjamin had told her. You don't repay kindness. You pass it forward. So she did. In every community project, every research initiative, every time someone in her position needed help, she remembered what it felt like to be drowning and to have someone throw you a lifeline, not out of pity, but recognition. She remembered. And she reached back to pull others forward, because that's what the story was really about. Not rescue. Not charity, but the simple revolutionary act of recognizing shared humanity and choosing to help. When you have the power to do so, that's what turned a wrong number into a right chance. That's what turned desperation into hope, and that's what continues to turn one life at a time, one community at a time, one act of courage at a time, into a world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.